So the practice of bringing peace into our minds is extremely important, because the mind that has a firm foundation and is strong, that will eventually develop into wisdom. And then when we have developed wisdom, that will allow us to keep our precepts and keep morality better. So this morality, sila, it's the stability of our body and of our mind. And it's an important thing that we need to do. And so we normally take the precepts from the monks, and the monks are there as our witness in taking up the precepts, whether it's the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, or the 10 precepts. So that's one method of doing it. When we already know well about sila and we're able to keep the precepts well, then we can determine them by ourselves. So we can determine to keep the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, the 10 precepts, and we can do that by ourselves. Mostly for lay people, they take up the practice of keeping the 5 precepts on normal days and the 8 precepts on the lunar observance days. So this sila, morality, virtue, is something that we should take good care of, because it's a noble wealth. In order to take good care of our virtue, then it's very useful to have a heart that's well established in kindness and in compassion, metta, karuna, and to have that as the foundation for our hearts. To have that there, those qualities of kindness and compassion, taking good care of our hearts. So in this world nowadays, we can see that the COVID virus has spread very quickly and spread very far. And now it's covering almost over the entire world. And people of all ages and all generations, they're passing away. There are some small children who have died, and there are some teenagers, some adults, and many old people have died from this. So we've probably all heard the teachings, Dhamma talk of Venerable Ajahn Chah, describing exactly this, that some people die while they're still in the womb. Some die as little babies, some as toddlers, some as children, some as adults, and some when they're very old. And so people die at all stages of life. And there are many people who die in various accidents, not knowing that it would occur. And so also in this day and age, the period that we're currently going through, there are many people who are dying from this epidemic. So there's a question that arises, well, why is it that people are different? Why is it that some people die when they're young? Why do some people die when they're old? And it's not the case that all the people who contract this virus die from it. There are many who have got better, but there are also the people who have passed away aren't few either. So we can see that, or understand that this is due to the karma of people, and that their karma is different. It's the karma both from people's past and also their karma in the present moment. So the karma in the past is the various actions that they've done in the past that have that produce results here. But there's also this present moment karma of the doctors who are taking care of them, and maybe they've got good medicine to help relieve the illness as well. And we can see that there are some people who still contract this virus even though they're extremely careful. They just stay in their house and they order their food from outside. They don't leave the house, but they still get the virus from that food that they've ordered in. So this is all a matter of people's karma. We can see that um, this virus is spreading most quickly in countries that are developed, in countries that transportation is very fast and there's a lot of tourism, and countries where things are very kind of closed in and packed together. And so many people get together in a confined space, and it's much easier for the virus to spread in that environment because it spreads through the air and through physical contact. And so if people get together in a small confined space, then it's easier to contract this virus. So we should try and you know take good care as well. Not be heedless and try to follow the rules that the government's putting out, and our chances of getting this virus then will lessen. So we can see that when people gather together in a way that they're not supposed to, say going to sports stadiums, or in Thailand people like to gather together and watch Thai boxing. That in these situations it's very easy for the virus to spread. But if we do take good care to try and keep the regulations that have been put out, then uh, the chances of getting it is lessened. And so the countries where people are abiding by these rules, in general, the cases are fewer. It's the nature of Thai people that they generally like things to be very relaxed and very easy, and aren't so keen to follow rules. But now this kind of attitude has had to change, and people are becoming more obedient and more willing to follow rules that the government's put out. And this is likely because most people are scared. They're scared that if they don't follow the rules, then they'll contract this virus. And so the government also needs to be a very good government as well, and very sincere in their efforts to stop the virus from spreading. And if that's the case, then it's likely that there'll be fewer people contracting it. But there are also some people who they've got a very strong body, and their immune system is a very good immune system, very effective. And so even though they get this virus, they don't need to take any medicines. They don't need to try and treat it in any way because their body is naturally coped to treat with it by itself. So we can see that the health of people's bodies is different as well. And there was an instance of this in the time of the Buddha. There was one monk who never knew what feelings of pain were like or what illness was like. And he lived to the age of 160. He was a layperson for 80 years, and then he ordained as a monk and lived as a monk for 80 years. But through that entire time, he didn't know what pain felt like because he had made a lot of merit in the past. He had, at one time, offered medicine to a Pajeka Buddha, a silent Buddha, and through the goodness of that action, he was then able to have this exceptionally good health. So our karma, our actions, are very important. Something that we should pay special attention to is adina dana, the precept of not taking what isn't ours. So we're not a burden on other people, and we're not harassing other people. We're not a cause of suffering to them. And we're also not a cause of suffering to ourselves as well. So we don't take other people's possessions to be our own possessions. If we do that, then the result of that karma is that our own possessions will get taken and get lost, and the things that we manage to gain, we won't be able to keep them for very long. So our keeping of virtue is something that is really important and something that we should pay special attention into taking care of and into keeping well. So even if those people who are very wealthy and those who aren't wealthy, it's necessary for everyone to keep sila, to keep morality. And some people these days have a lot of wealth, but they're not so attached to that wealth and they're very happy to give it away. So there are some people who have given huge amounts of money to clinics, hundreds of thousands of baht, given that away. And there was a doctor who's opened up a clinic and he treats people for just 1 baht, no matter who it is, no matter what illness they have. He's happy to treat them for just 1 baht. And even if it's foreigners who come, he doesn't raise the price. It's just 1 baht for the foreigners too. And so he's able to do this because he feels that the happiness he gains from doing that is worth more than the money. He feels that he has enough already. And it's quite difficult to find in this world someone who feels that way, feels that they have enough. But the wealth that we gain from that, from feeling like we have enough externally, is a wealth that is there in our hearts. And it's a wealth that we gain that doesn't we don't have to take anything from anyone else. We don't have to be a burden on anyone else. And we're also not a burden on ourselves either. So when we are generous like this and we're very self-sacrificing, then it's easy for the mind to develop. And eventually you'll develop to the point of being able to experience the inner Buddha and to see the Dhamma. So once we've understood that this life is unsure, that it's very unstable, and that death is something that is sure, that is certain, that the things of this world we can't really trust or depend upon, then what naturally arises is a desire for the Dhamma. And as we practice that Dhamma, then eventually we experience emptiness. And we see that the wealth externally, it's not worth very much. It has very little value to us. But it's the internal wealth that really has great importance, because that inner wealth is what will lead us to see into the nature of conventional reality and in turn experience liberation. And then when we experience liberation, that's a great source of inner wealth for us. So we see that the things that we gain, the external wealth that we have, it's not really ours. But the wealth that we gain in our hearts, the inner wealth, it's something that can be of great benefit to us and give us great joy and a sense of fullness in our hearts. So for many of us, we start off with the practice of generosity and make that a practice that is normal for us. So we do it just as a part of our habit. And then from that, we take the precepts and we make those precepts look after our body and our speech. We keep our body and speech within the bounds of those. And this is all based on kindness and compassion. The keeping of these precepts is an act of kindness and a compassionate thing to do. When we do that, then the mind will easily gather together into samadhi. And we can develop our minds to that level. And one way of doing that is to chant over the goodness of the Buddha, the Buddha's great qualities, and the Chanti Tipiso, and do that 108 times. And we try and do that at least 1 time per day. But if we have enough time and enough energy, then we can do it twice a day. And do it until the mind gathers into a state of peace. And we have a deep a deep feeling of these great qualities of the Buddha within our heart. So when we have strong faith, then we can do these things without much difficulty. We can chant for a long time and not get bored. We can do sitting meditation, we can walk in meditation, and we won't feel fed up with it. So this depends on the faith that we have. But all of us should feel very proud that in this life we have met with the Buddhasasana, this Buddhist religion. So we should take this good opportunity that we have and make the best use of it that we can. Try and build as much goodness in this life as we can. Because we see that life is something that is unsure. But we are alive now, and so we have this opportunity now. And so if we have the fortune to live further, then we'll live in the Dhamma. And when we die, then we die in the Dhamma.